China just crossed a milestone the world has never seen before, a $1 trillion trade surplus. Even more shocking, some economists say the real number could be closer to $1.2 trillion. How did China pull this off? Why didn't Trump's tariffs slow it down? And is this massive surplus even sustainable? Let's break it all down.
Welcome back to the channel. Before we dive in, we want to know who is the most influential person in the world right now. Every year, we ask our viewers to rank the top 10 most influential figures in politics, media, culture, and activism. Your vote shapes the final list, so click the link in the description to cast your vote for 2026.
To understand China's enormous surplus, we need to answer two key questions. 1. Why does China export so much? 2. Why does it import so little in comparison? First, exports. China's economy has expanded rapidly over the last 2 decades, from under $1 trillion in the late 90s to about $18 trillion today, averaging nearly 9% annual growth. When your economy is that big, a $1 trillion surplus suddenly doesn't seem impossible. There's a common misconception that China's surplus is uniquely huge, but relative to GDP, it actually isn't extreme. After peaking at 10% in 2007, China's surplus has averaged around 3% of GDP for the last decade, below Germany and Japan. But scale isn't the only factor. Chinese industries are incredibly competitive. A recent study found that Chinese industrial workers produce 2 to 3 times more output than American workers, while earning nearly 80% less. This has made China the world's largest exporter of manufactured goods. And sectors like EVs and semiconductors are growing even faster.
Now, the second question. Why doesn't China spend its foreign earnings on more imports? Economists disagree on the exact reason, but they do agree on one thing. Every surplus must be matched by someone else's deficit. For decades, the United States has absorbed China's excess production through its own large trade deficit.
Some economists blame countries like China for undervaluing their currency or suppressing wages. Others blame the U.S. for huge government deficits and for attracting foreign capital, which pushes up imports. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle.
Chinese wages have increased, and the government has expanded its social safety net. But Beijing still intervenes to keep the yuan weak, making exports cheaper and imports relatively expensive. Given that the U.S. has been China's biggest export market, you might expect Trump's tariffs to cut into China's surplus, but they didn't, at least not in the way you'd expect. Exports to the U.S. did fall, but exports to Europe and Southeast Asia surged. China simply found new markets, or used third countries to ship goods into the U.S., bypassing tariffs. This is why America's overall trade deficit hasn't shrunk much, even though its bilateral deficit with China has. Bilateral tariffs are easy to dodge. Some commentators argue China's surpluses can't last forever. They clash with classical economic theory and are increasingly frustrating for Europe and the U.S. But the data suggests something different. China's ability to find new markets, combined with America's inability to rein in its deficit, means these imbalances might last much longer than expected. Our latest issue of Too Long is officially out, with a deep dive into the shifting geopolitics of the Middle East, Qatar's influence, governance of New Gaza, Iran's nuclear ambitions, and more. We also cover major global elections, UK/EU politics. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, and cast your vote for the most influential person of 2026. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.